These metrics are automatically calculated in a spreadsheet. What the team has to provide is really simple. Their initial estimates at sprint planning, the product owner has to accept certain stories, and the team each day needs to do an estimate about how much work they got done on the most important story. So the team does very little work, and the rest of it is just all calculated within the spreadsheet. The other thing that Scott's going to show you that is really cool about this spreadsheet is that it can generate a retrospective for the team that can help them think more clearly about what they're doing. Sometimes the computer talking, they can listen more clearly.
It does capture a few of the retrospective items that you and your team will need to discuss, but I also want to put on the table that it doesn't capture everything. When there's not a metric that necessarily reflects maybe some interpersonal conflicts that you've got going on, or a micromanager that's wandering around the office, that will eventually show up in the metrics, but as a Scrum Master, you don't want to wait for that to show up on RoboCoach before you address it. So RoboCoach is a useful tool for Scrum Masters, but it does not mean that you can turn off your brain and proceed. So let's take a look at the RoboCoach spreadsheet. And it started out just like most Scrum Masters do by creating an Excel spreadsheet that's going to do my burn down chart for me. And you'll notice now that there's an About tab. This is in version 5.0.2. And it goes through sort of the point of what RoboScrum is about. And I also want to point out that right here in this About section, it lists the password for this spreadsheet. The password is Rapid Scrum in all lowercase. The reason I have the spreadsheet locked, as you'll see in a moment, is because it makes it a lot easier to navigate with the tab key if it's locked. And it also protects the functions that are the formulas that are in there from accidental deletion. But all of the formulas that we've just gone through in the presentation are listed right down here at the bottom of the About tab. So if you don't want to use the RoboScrum spreadsheet, you want to do your own, there are the formulas, and the rest of the complexity in RoboScrum is just me wrangling Excel into the charts that I have. So step one would be to go to the Setup tab. And on the Setup tab, you simply enter the names of the individuals on your team. And notice that to the right, there are indicators of what role that person's going to play on the team, whether they're the Scrum Product Owner, Scrum Master, or Delivery Team member. If you've got a team that's larger than 9 people, you're out of luck. There's not a place to enter the name of the 10th person because we do not recommend Scrum teams larger than 9 people. I've also added a section at the on row 14 where we can determine on what date we want to start considering data. This is just to allow the Scrum Master some flexibility in looking at recent data versus all data just for their own engagement. I've used it recently for a team that had some difficulty with retaining the same members over a long period of time. And so we only wanted to consider the data from the point in time that that team was formed as they currently stand, not from the first time that the team ever had a name, even though it was different people. So you can use that drop-down to select how much data is used in the consideration and the calculation of all these metrics. The second step is to go to the Sprint tab. And what you'll need to do is enter a conversational name for each of the story cards that you pull into the sprint. There is only space for 20 story cards. I've never seen a team on a 1-week sprint need more than 20 rows. In fact, most of them use only 3 or 4. If you need more than that, you're welcome to unlock the sheet and extend the formulas. Then there's a place to mark the type of commitment it was, whether it was planned or adopted work. And this is what helps us determine how to calculate adopted work versus original commitment. Then we have ways to set up the work source. And I've got 3 ways listed right now, or 3 work sources listed. This could be a new feature, a defect that you're now resolving, or production support. But we could extend this to any number of work sources that we choose to do. And in fact, soon this is going to become a web app, which if you check back at Rapid Scrum, you'll see when that's posted. And on the web app, a lot of these things are going to be much more customizable. The team's original estimate is, again, here in a drop list that is constrained to the Fibonacci scale. So this could cause some complexity for people who are, let's say, taking a single vote and averaging them so that the team's original estimate comes out to be 4.73. You're not going to be able to put a 4.73 in there. You're going to be constrained to using the Fibonacci number. Then this final section is, was the card accepted by the product owner? And if so, on what day of the sprint? Monday through Friday. And then the column I simply shows you the total investment that has been reported by the team so far in the sprint. Then to the right, we have the amount of work reported. This is the result of the daily stand-up meetings. So you'll see on day 1, which is Thursday, on card 1, we've reported 1 point worth of work. That's what the team agreed they as a group had achieved. And we continue with that all the way across all 5 days. Now you'll also notice that right now at the top of this tab, it says your trend tab needs attention soon. I've built in a little bit of error checking that helps us know if the data is getting out of date. So if you go down to the trend tab, it's going to give us a complaint. Up at the top, the data integrity check says the current sprint should end on 2010-10-11 at 2 p.m., but that row is not present in your data. Please create it as soon as possible. In order to create that row, all you need to do is select the first blank cell and enter the team size. And it will then automatically create that row and highlight it as the current sprint. Any of the column values now that are out of sync with the purple row are going to be highlighted with red. If they're in sync, they're highlighted with green. And so what I chose to do is simply to have the Scrum Master touch every row, every column, and enter the data to turn all the rows green. And you'll notice that at the top, in the data integrity check column, it's actually giving you very explicit instructions. Please change the value in cell V25 from 0% to 62.8%. As soon as you type in 62.8, it says, that's happy. Everybody's happy. The data looks good. And to the right, we have an area for Scrum Master notes. So if you want to note that someone was on vacation that particular sprint or that someone joined the team, this is where you'd make that note so you can refer back to why was this particular sprint better or worse than other sprints. And now that we've made those data entries, if we look back to the Sprint tab, you'll notice the warning message is gone, and it says that you're only allowed to edit cells that are in white. Now, as a planning tool, we also have the ability to mark how often someone is expected to be in the office or available to the team during the coming sprint. There are 4 values that we can put into each cell for each day. They can be expected to be present, fully present. They can have a planned absence, an unplanned absence, or a half day. So if you've got shared resources which are not ideal, then you would mark them as half days. If you've got people with vacation, you'd mark them as planned absences. So then it gives you the projected team availability, and using the team's average velocity projects how much you should be committing to approximately for the coming sprint. Then we move over to the Scale tab. And what we're going to do with the Scale tab is, again, we're copying the purple row down to the current row. Looking along the left-hand side, now that we've created the October 6th row in our data on trend, it's telling us that we have an 8-point card, and it has been accepted by the product owners. So we simply copy those values down. 8-point card, it has been accepted. 5-point card, it has not been accepted, and so forth. This is going to come in handy a little bit later when we actually show you the percentage chance of success for different cards of different sizes. On the Metrics tab, you just get the raw data. What do the metrics look like for the current sprint and the top set of rows? And then in the bottom set of the rows, what does it look like for the last 10 sprints on average? With questions beside each of these metrics about what they're